Yep, we're on. So when you get on, we'll be on. Yes. So hello. We are live here now with tonight we're doing Ask the OT with Gina Grothoff, and where we answer questions. I gotta silence myself here on. I don't hear that. And soon Gina will be coming on, but we're going to be doing these throughout this month. We've got three more coming up soon. I put my time away. Well, yeah. So we're going to be doing these free 30-minute Ask the OTs here on YouTube. But if you want more in what? Yeah, you log in Zoom. Gina's getting ready to come on here. Yeah, I'm throwing me. So right now we'll be we'll be doing these May 20th at 7 p.m. May 22nd at noon. These are all Eastern Standard Time. And then June 3rd, we'll be doing one at 7 o'clock. Those are the ones that are coming up, the 30-minute on YouTube. But if you want a more in-depth ability to have questions answered, we ask you to check out our e-parent club on Facebook, where we're building a community of people that are caring for aging loved ones, possibly sandwich generation. Oh, I gotta get my Zoom up here. Gotta let we go. I'm gonna be on YouTube watching for chats. If you would like to ask a question, you can do it through chat. If you would like to actually be on Zoom, we can still send you a link to be on there to where you can talk live with her. There you go. There she is. So, like I said, we are in our parent community. We are going to be, we'll have resources there. We'll have others that are that are taking care of aging loved ones.
Other
Other
professionals. We're going to
professionals.
bring on other people to
We'll
discuss
be
all kinds
doing
of
these
different
Q and
topics.
A's 2 or 3 times in the month. We'll be doing my tapping work to help people come over the stress of what they're going through. But let's welcome Gina in here to start. Maybe we could come up with some questions to start this out, and I'll keep an eye on um, YouTube to see who might have questions for us.
So I'll
But
just start with some questions we encountered. And as we air this, it is Dementia Awareness Week. And we did a podcast on dementia, and that will air. Does that air this week, Don?
that'll air this coming, I'd say
Thursday,
Thursday, the
May the
16th of May at 8 o'clock, and you can find it through any of the platforms that you normally go to
or podcast,
for
as well as
podcasts.
right here on YouTube. We do it video
Yes.
as well as audio.
And you
So
can visit our site, focushealthyfamilypodcast.com, to find the episodes there.
So in my work as an occupational therapist, working in a variety of geriatric settings in rehabilitation, currently I'm working at a facility that has a skilled nursing facility, assisted living, independent living, a memory care unit. I've also worked in home care and some other areas. I do a lot of education with family members, especially when someone's dealing with dementia. And they're either not safe to be home alone at all or really need, a lot of times they come to us with like the early signs of the dementia. Something happens, it becomes more obvious. The family realizes, do we need more help in the home? And so we're often the first line of talking about what the other options are of getting extra help, of what they need help for, what specific things. Maybe someone can be home by themselves for parts of the day, but they need help with meals or with their medication. That's a really big one. Making sure that they are taking the right amount of medication um, and at the right time. I have a lot of people, their families set up their medicine in a pill case for them as long as they're able to follow that, to know what day of the week it is. I I'm surprised when I get people who still take their pills out of their bottles. Um, Even I don't do that. I fill up a pill case because, we get busy doing things and, did I take my supplements or whatever it is you're taking? I take some medications and I find that really helpful. So you don't even really have to think of it. The pill case is full, is empty. And so sometimes as simple as someone setting that up for someone, having the pill case, being there to check on it, and even coming on video chat would be great. If you're at a distance, you can't come to the home, or even if you are, just time constraints, kind of, and it's a nuance of finding a way to help someone with this. Like I would say, for me, in order to remember, it helps me to have things in a pill case. And your family checking up on you is a way of just helping you out. Um, and how's the pill case going, mom? Or, you can find ways to assess if they are really taking them and if the pill case is being emptied without saying, "Did you take your medicine? Show me your pill case." Something we might typically do with a child. Yet, of course, we can do this respectfully. And yet, this person is a full grown adult. They've lived a full adult life almost always and been independent and responsible for themselves. And so that can be very demeaning to someone. Oftentimes, um, throughout dementia, people can even have an awareness of their deficits. And so they're embarrassed by it, or they cover that up with, well, thinking they're fine or telling you they are, justifying, becoming angry about it. And so it's helpful to keep that in mind that they are an adult. I've had people say, well, to their parents, well, now you're the child and I'm taking care of you. Well, to some degree, and yet to say that to someone, it's demeaning. They are not a child. Even someone with advanced dementia, there are dementia classifications and it talks about it in child development. So it kind of equates it to a child of 8 to 10, a child of, 4 to 5. Yet cognitively, that's the way their brain is able to function. They're still an adult who has a lifelong year of experiences and, memories and a bigger frame of reference. And we have to remember that. We have to honor who they are when we're talking with people and finding a way to do so in a respectful way. So that's kind of a first step with, people who need help at home is, how are they managing that medication? Some people are not taking it properly, which can cause confusion. It can cause, if you're not taking your blood pressure pill, it be affecting your blood pressure, or you're taking too much. If you have low blood pressure, that's cause you to fall, to pass out, to black out. Falls are a big, call it the F word in geriatric world. A lot of times people say, oh, don't say that word. And yet my job is to assess their risk for falls and then to do things to help minimize it. So that can be a combination of exercises, balance training, as well as compensatory strategies, using a walker rather than a cane or crutches, what type of walker they're using, having a seat for showering, using a reacher to pick things up off the floor or especially overhead. A lot of people lose their balance backwards. And so just even if you're not going real high, I had a patient one time was taking like a jacket off a hook on a door, fell backwards, broke something. I can't remember what. And so really looking at that, yeah, I can stand and I can do this, but can I reach up and look up at the same time? Can I turn my head while I'm standing? All these different motions um, affect our dynamic balance. You might be able to stand statically. It's like people who can walk in a straight line. Oh, they're walking 150 feet. They can walk. Can they turn? Can they negotiate through a doorway, over a threshold? Can they go through obstacles? Walk down the hall with people and the nursing cart's out or something's in the hallway and they're bumping into it. And, Yeah, they can walk in a straight line with a clear path, but you know, our lives are filled with obstacles, especially when people are looking at going home. There aren't big, wide hallways, with clear pathways like you might find in a lot of facilities. And so being able to negotiate around things safely. A lot of our furniture has pointy, sharp edges on it, which we all bump into our furniture sometimes. And someone who's got frail skin, people who are on blood thinners, their skin breaks and bruises so much easier. So just the lightest bump that we might do and go, ouch, and move on, they're bleeding now all of a sudden, which puts you at a risk. They have open skin. That's at a risk for infection.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about how you communicate with someone that has dementia. Some different ideas there.
Okay. So it kind of goes to like when I meet a patient for the first time, I do a lot of evaluating of new people at the nursing home. I like to find out about them. You know, if they're able to tell me, especially directly from them or their family, what did you do for a living? Because it's pretty common that, I mean, there are people who can't tell you that. Yet the short-term memory typically is more of an issue than long-term. So they can often tell you what they did for a living and finding out about them. So keeping those things in mind if you're talking to an aging loved one. I've learned so much about my dad and his past and his jobs, even more so now since he has had Parkinson's with the dementia. In my interactions when he's been in the hospital, I'll start talking about something like that because I know he likes to talk about the past. I know he's got some positive memories from the past. And it can, especially when he's stressed, having to deal with monitors, other things going on in the hospital, it can be a fun conversation, a way of starting a conversation with him. And so just tell even a story you maybe already know. Hey, Dad, I remember you talking about, you worked at this job and, you had a company car and tell me, I'm trying to remember what you told me about that. So you can do a little bit of a providing an opportunity for them to share something. And maybe they've told this story 100 times, but they're in the hospital, they're sick, they're stressed, they don't want to be there. They keep asking you, when am I going home? Get them telling a story. It's connecting them with a sense of who they are. It gives them that sense of, you know, that they have some, thinking back on the things that they were able to do in their life and being able to tell you that can be empowering to them. Pointing out ways that you have learned from them, recognizing their strengths, even though they're dealing with dementia or whatever issues they're dealing with, even someone who's, doesn't have dementia or any of those kind of issues, but has a broken leg and can't put weight on it and is having a hard time getting up and getting around. Um, Someone like that, you could talk me through making this meal or talk me through how you do things, tell me how to do that. And even someone with dementia might be able to recall an old recipe or be able to talk about how they used to do it. Or, you could maybe they don't have it written down and you can try to recreate it together. Um, Cooking is such a fun way of connecting. As an occupational therapist, we work on activities of daily living, anything that you do to spend how you spend your time in your day. So if you're retired, what do you do? Do you have hobbies? Do you knit? Do you do puzzles? Do you play golf? Do you like to cook or bake or go on the computer screen? Can you still do these things with different limitations and things that, whether it's kind of a new acute situation or an ongoing thing? And how can we facilitate ways that you can still do these activities with maybe a little help and yet not saying, oh, you can't cook anymore, Mom. You can't bake a cake like you used to. Let me do it for you. Or like, let's do this together. And, if they're having trouble with measuring or something, can you do this aspect and I'll do the measuring? I like that better, or you're better at this, kind of pointing out their strengths and doing it in a fashion to allow them to succeed, seeing what they are. And that's why it's so important to have diagnosis, to have someone assess someone, and to have a doctor, a medical professional, someone who has specific knowledge in dementia and whatever disease process your parent is going through, explaining things to you so you can understand the ins and outs and how it affects them so that you can find ways for them to succeed. Because just like any of us, and we see this very clearly with children, if we throw something at someone that's way beyond their ability, they're going to be frustrated with it. Um, you know, they can become agitated, it can affect their behavior. It can set off anger and all kinds of things. But if you set someone up, and again, not making it too easy that it feels condescending. Any questions?
Not yet. I was
Any
posting
questions about
around.
what I've said, or are you kind of focused on that?
I'm sorry. I've been putting out to let people know that you're there and to join us.
So
Uh,
this is Gina. I'm Gina Grothoff. I'm an occupational therapist. I've worked in adult and geriatric rehab in a variety of settings for going on 32 years. And I've also been in the position of caring for my aging parent. First, years ago, we had Don's mom who had heart attack and some other dementia issues, and they had to move her out of her home and into an assisted living facility. And so years ago, we helped with that. And then my dad has had Parkinson's for 17 years now, and in the past 5 or so years, his dementia has progressed. And so I'm in the middle. I'm in that sandwich generation caring for my parent. I have a 15-year-old at home that I'm still homeschooling. Her 22-year-old moved back home, even though she's filing her own taxes as an independent. Um, you know, our kids still need our support, even if they don't live at home. Maybe either it's financially or emotionally or in whatever aspect we're juggling. And maybe you don't even have kids, but you're caring for your aging mom and you're juggling your job, or you know, maybe your husband has some illness issues or your wife and you're dealing with an aging parent. Um, I get people in their 90s quite frequently. And one of them was telling me, oh yeah, and my daughter, is probably 70s. They're in the hospital with this. So sometimes these people, their children are geriatric as well. They're elderly and that's their support system. And so you can have multiple levels of people in the hospital at the same time. So maybe you're stepping in as a cousin or someone else to help and support that area. And so it helps to have information, it helps to get correct diagnoses, to have the right professionals who can support and assist and provide guidance.
well, and talking about the idea of aphasia, and understanding that they might be comprehending, they just may not look like it.
They might understand more than they can express. Think of a baby. Goodness, they take in so much. They watch us, they can understand things even before they can talk. So there are different types of what's called aphasia, their ability to process and communicate with language. So there are people who have what is called expressive aphasia. Their ability to speak and say what they want to say is affected. So they might understand the things that you're telling them. And you know this because they can follow directions. They can nod their head yes, and yet their ability for their brain to take their thoughts and find the words that they need can be affected. And not just struggling to find particular words, but putting it into language, putting it into sentences. They could have trouble with that, but still understand at a pretty high level of what they need to do. Um, and that's something that's often missed. There's a particular patient I'm working with, and she doesn't speak very much. She can say some words. And I had a caregiver ask, she doesn't speak. Does she understand things? And I said, well, actually, she understands a lot. I can tell her to slow down. She's very impulsive. She gets up quickly. She's very motivated to be independent. And yet she's got coordination deficits and balance issues. She can't turn her head very well. And it affects her vision side to side. But I can tell her to slow down and I need to repeat it. She does have some dementia and reminders of what she needs to do, but I can have a conversation with her. I was talking to a caregiver because I know her from I met her in the assisted living and now she's in the nursing home. So I work in a place that has multi-levels and I was talking to her about it and I kind of looked at her. I said, I'm telling all your secrets, and I knew she understands me. She smiles at me. She makes that connection. And yet someone might come along and think, oh, she doesn't speak. She doesn't,
Yeah.
therefore she doesn't understand, or because you get people with so many different levels of dementia. And when people don't have the extensive training, and I mean, sure, I learned about these things in school and as I'm working, but the hands-on, the doing it over and over, the working with a variety of people, it builds that experience. Um, And so I'm always educating other people, caregivers, even nursing staff, other staff members who might not fully understand, even medical doctors that don't work a lot with people in geriatrics, their knowledge can be minimal. I mean, even with my education with a medical doctor, you learn a lot about a variety of things, and then you have a specialty area. And if you're only encountering older people once in a while, sure, you might do some seminars, understand a little more about dementia. But if you're not seeing it day after day, if you're not working with people to really understand the full aspect of it, taking more classes on it, doing more research and reading more information, um, it can be difficult to know how do I know if they understand me? What can I look for? And some basic things, can you hand someone a shirt? Are they able to know that they need to put that on?
Mm.
Um, I can tell when I assess people, especially if they have some issues with their cognition, that being able to tell me what they were able to do before they were in the hospital, their prior level of function. If I hand them their socks, a shirt, I can tell someone who was getting themselves dressed before versus someone who had other family members doing it for them, because they don't. If someone's been doing it for them, they probably don't have the initiation. They don't make the effort. They might pick their foot up and look at you because someone does that, puts their, socks and shoes on for them, versus someone who you hand clothes to. And even though they can't bend because their hip is broken, they make that effort. They initiate doing the task in the way that you need to do to correctly to, um, and so paying attention to things like that, are they able to follow one-step directions? Raise your arm. Are they able to follow a multi-level set of directions?
I just did, I don't know why I did that.
Because I said
You
raise
said
your
it, so
arm.
I'm trying to do this and I'm like doing
Now pat your head
and rub my
and
tummy.
rub your tummy. So that's, one step. Go into the kitchen is one step. Go into the kitchen and take your medicine. So that's another step. And if it's not right out there in front of you, it's like you have to get it out of the cabinet and then you have to get a glass of water. So sometimes we think we're just telling them to do one thing, but it can be a multi-step process. You see this with kids as they're growing and developing, their ability to follow multi-step directions hopefully progresses and improves. And, go upstairs, get your dirty clothes, bring them down, and also that, glass you left sitting on your dresser. And they'll come down with one thing, but not the other, because maybe it's time for dinner, or they'll forget all the things, or right, being able to to follow a multi-step direction. So kind of paying attention to things. It can be real helpful if maybe your parent lives with you or you're there visiting them all the time. If you see them regularly, you might not notice because it can be very subtle and they have ways of compensating for it. And you have the dynamics of your relationship, like, oh, um, mom and I are always nagging back and forth about this, and you think it's just kind of your dynamic. Someone else coming in to visit can often like, oh, wow, I see a difference. It can be helpful to have other people's insight on things and to step back for a minute. Because when you're in the middle of just living, and you think your mom's, she needs help, you have to pick up her groceries for her, or you maybe even set up her pill case, but you think things are going okay, and maybe she's forgetting things once in a while. It could be far worse than you realize. Um, we talked about this recently with a family member, me and the physical therapist, that someone who's got some cognitive issues in their environment, wherever they live, usually at home, they've got the routine. And when they're in the routine, they can function okay. They can manage pretty good. You take them out of that environment, they're in the hospital, they're there for a couple days, then they get moved to rehab, and all of a sudden they can't function and they're seeing all these things. Well, they're out of their routine. And sometimes you've broken an arm, you know, things are going to change when you go home. So you can't just get back to that routine. And, you know, they're compensating by being in that routine. And yet you take some of that away and they're really going to struggle. And that's where you see, wow, they've really gone downhill since they've been here. Well, it's, you know, disorienting for one to be in a hospital. Sometimes they move you from one room to another. You got different staff members, different people. A lot of times you're laying down on that bed that they can wheel from the emergency department up to the room. So your orientation of where you are is totally off because you've been staring at the ceiling. And so all those changes in environments, and if you're looking at trying to get them back home, they might not be able to return to that routine and do as well, or, you know, because of other things that are declining. Uh, and that's why, you know, it's important. We talk about keeping people at home as long as possible, keeping things similar. If you are going to move someone, how can you make the environment similar? What can you can do to minimize confusion? And so those things all have an impact on people and things that you can kind of, you know, cluing in, paying attention to what you might be looking for if you're concerned, if you're noticing some differences in their behavior. First, go to their medication, you know. Are they even taking it? Are they getting the prescriptions filled? Sometimes it's something like that.
Taking too much or too little, or
Right, not following the directions with it, missing doses.
also looking at, like we did with my mom, is luckily my sister was a nurse practitioner. She looked at some of the drugs that they were giving her were working against each other.
Right. And that's where having someone who can oversee it. There are some different doctors out there. You know, your primary care is supposed to be that person who kind of looked at your whole picture. Things are so specialized now that getting someone to see the whole picture. And when we took my dad to the neuropsychiatrist who specializes in geriatrics, that's what he did as a, you know, neuropsychiatrist. They went through and looked at the medications, and because the goal, the more medications you're on, it's something they call polypharmacy. It increases your fall risk. It increases all kinds of difficulties just because of the multiple medications, because there can be interactions. And sometimes, you know, yet the doctor and the medical people have to weigh the pros and cons of is this more beneficial, you know, to be on it versus not be on it. But it's good to reevaluate that on a regular basis. Yeah, I remember they took your mom off quite a few medications and
Yeah, they
she
were,
actually did better, you know, for
yeah.
a while because,
Well, they were working against her liver. One of them was really having a lot of issues with their liver. So yeah, it was
and something that needs to really be evaluated, you know, and maybe their deficiencies in B vitamins and vitamin D are so common, especially as we get older, and that can have impacts on things like our cognition. I'll have to ask my mom about this again. There's some, I want to say it's like in the B vitamin family that my dad started taking. And she's like, she noticed an improvement from taking that in his behavior and his calmness and things. So there are things in our diet, you know, we think we're even eating healthy. Just because we're eating green vegetables doesn't mean those vegetables have the nutrients in it that they're supposed to. And that making sure we're getting what we need to function properly. That's why things like fish oil, the omega-3 fatty acids greatly affect our brain function. I mean, there's a lot of science and research behind a lot of these
and
areas.
being able to do deep testing to do that. I mean, that's what like our the nature path I work with does a lot deeper testing to get down to the figure out what things are not just food, but you know what enzymes aren't in the right levels, and so it doesn't hurt to find someone that can do a little deeper work for you to get a better idea of
And
what
then if
you
you're taking some kind of supplement, is it really having an impact? Um,
is it
my
absorbing.
child was taking a vitamin D supplement, and I want to say the readings were 20, which supposedly is normal range. Yet when you talk to people in more functional medicine practice, I mean, lack of vitamin D is so closely linked to depression and I believe even dementia. And really your levels should be much higher than just 20. So she was taking one over the counter supplement and it wasn't changing. We started her on a spray, a methylated version, higher quality product, and just a month later it was up to 40. And so is what you're taking doing what it's supposed to do? A lot of people are prescribed B vitamins, D vitamins. Is someone checking the labs? Is it actually improving it? Because if it's not, maybe it's the method that they're taking. Maybe there's a better formula out there that has better
Methylate or
methylated, better
methylated.
absorption to it. Sometimes it's helpful because doctors don't have a lot of information. They don't have a lot of education on nutrition. That is not the focus of medical school. And so going to someone who really specializes in that, in addition to your doctor, there's functional medicine doctors out there, naturopathic doctors, there's functional nutritionist specialists who really study that in more detail and in more depth. And, looking at the quality, you can buy so many different products, even fish oils online. It doesn't mean it says what you're getting. The numbers
Hmm.
are all deceiving. It says it's, whatever milligrams, but what is that milligrams of? Is it omega-3? Is it omega-6s? There's so many components to it. And so getting that information, making sure it's a reputable source, right? We can all Google and look things up on the internet, but are we getting it from
Dr. Google.
a reputable source? Are we, understanding it, or at least having someone who can guide us and finding a quality product, because you can get a lot of these things very cheaply. Um, and you can also buy something, that costs $30 and something costs 70, and they both can be just as effective. So it's not just about price, but the quality. And why keep buying something for $30 a month that isn't making a difference if we're not looking at those levels? Things to think about with yourself. We're all getting older. I have patients say, getting older is tough, or it's like, well, we're still living on this planet. We are getting older. And so it's things we want to think about for our own health and those around us, and so many different factors to take into consideration. And I want to remind you guys that Don, when's our next Ask the OT?
May
Right,
20th,
right here on
7
YouTube.
p.m. right here live.
So next Tuesday, the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We schedule these for approximately a half hour in length. And then we will be doing one Wednesday at noon, starting
The 22nd we'll be doing one.
on the 22nd of May.
And then finally, well, not finally, but June 3rd we'll be doing a one at 7 p.m. again. It's a Monday.
So let us know your questions. Share this information with other people. We don't, we're happy to receive emails, text messages, even connect with us on YouTube, on our Facebook page, our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can send things anonymously. You can call us up to talk to us, to talk about your questions. You can join us live. You can join us via chat and just share your questions. Maybe you can't attend a session, but send your question in. This recording you can access later. And we're going to be saving all these recordings that we do, and the ones that we were able to save that we've done in the past that we did on the Facebook. And this is all going to go in our community, and it's going to be organized for you able to pull up, what's your question? Oh, we'll go to this video and see how we talked about that. And the other aspects of the Ask the OT e-parent club community that we're creating. Tell us more about that, Don.
Well, they'll be there. You're going to be able to be around other like-minded people that are in the same kind of situation, and that's always very helpful to know you're not alone in this. Um, Plus, there'll be resources there. We hope to have some classes that are going to be going up in there for people to learn different things. Uh, Also be doing these Q&A sessions at least twice a month. Plus, I'll be doing EFT tapping sessions that help people bring down the stress that's involved with caring for an aging loved one. So there's just a lot of different things we're going to find in this community. It's really about building a
And
community.
we're growing it. So join now.
Yeah,
If you want to join the community, it's currently
but
how much a month, Don?
it's 7.99 a month. We've kept it down to get people to because we want it to be there to help people and for people to join. And of course, we'll have other ability to consult with Gina and I and do other things to help you even further with.
Yeah, because everybody's situation is different and unique, and each person is different and unique. And, we all have different financial resources and living situations and number of family members who can help. So there's so many different factors that play into it. So join us again for Ask the OT here on YouTube. Check out our Facebook page, our podcasts that air every Thursday. Reach out to us and share with your friends to be part of this community.
And remember, how you speak to your children and your loving, aging loved one shapes their future and yours.
Thank you for joining us.